Hello and welcome everyone to this evening's event. And as you all know that we have started a new kind of a series which we are experimenting with Celebrate Our Similarities at the moment to kind of try and look into South Asian influences. We had our first event yesterday, and today is the part 2 of that series. And it's been conceptualized by Celebrate Our Similarities for Manav Utsav Festival. Manav Utsav is a human festival where we are talking about bringing people together and trying to work out how we will build our society in a post-pandemic world. So in this episode, we talk to experts in various fields about their visualization of change in a post-pandemic world. And these episodes will have, we are thinking that it will have a far-reaching impact on policies and practices in the UK and internationally. And of course, it will help us to connect with different universities and explore more on the areas of change based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So today, we have got the panelists with us already in our studio. And if I bring in our first panelist, who is the chair of East Midland Regional Advisory Board, Canals and Rivers Trust, Anil Majathia. Welcome to the studio.
Good afternoon, Indrani. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm well, enjoying the sunshine. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's all well, isn't it? The weather looks quite nice, although in my part it is a little bit dark. Yeah, but what we are trying to do is to kind of build that conversation around change today. And Anil, I know that you have been doing massive work in Leicestershire. And if you ask myself, I have been visiting a couple of sites really during this time. And it's some of the lovely ideas and concepts that's being introduced by Rivers and Canals Trust. Would you like to tell us a little bit around your journey and what has inspired you, what has motivated you, and a little bit around, what kind of advice you will give to people?
Okay, thank you for that, Indrani. Firstly, can I just express my thanks to you, Indrani and Kamla, for organizing this particular event, celebrating the contributions of South Asian. Thank you very much for that. And I am truly humbled to be in the company of such participants in and inspirational change makers you've lined up today. So thank you for that. What I'll do is I'll give you a potted history of my journey. I was born in Uganda. I moved to India and studied there for 4 years, and before coming to UK in 1974, so I've been here since 1974. I continued my studies in UK and started my professional career in 1979 after graduating. After 38 years of very successful professional career, mainly delivering major change for international companies, major change programs for various international companies. I decided to retire and follow my passion to make a difference. Make a difference by helping people change their lives for better through health, education, and well-being. And that's my passion. So I have committed over the last 4 years for doing whatever I can to support those. My famous line is when people say, how come you are so busy when you say you're retired? I use the line, I've retired from work, I have not retired from life. I'm still here. So one of the key change-making things is that people should not retire from life, you're retiring from work. The portfolio of board positions that I currently hold reflects that. As you mentioned, the Canal and River Trust, Chair of East Midlands Regional Advisory Board. I'm also on the non-executive director with the local NHS George Eliot Hospital. I'm also non-executive director with Leicestershire Enterprise Partnership. I'm a trustee with their ambulance. I'm a vice chair of North Warwickshire South Leicestershire College. So you see, there is a theme there around the health, education, and well-being. So that was my personal journey in terms of pandemic, which has been, I think, life-changing for almost everybody in one way or another. I think the journey through that, only thing I can say is it's really been eye-opening for me, Indrani. You know, there were times when the board meeting for the hospital would coincide with an afternoon board meeting with Leicestershire Enterprise Partnership. So in the morning, we would be sitting talking about deaths, saving lives. And then in the afternoon, we're talking about livelihood, the impact of lockdown on economy, and what we can do to help. So really eye-opener for me. I'm also privileged to chair the George Eliot Hospital charity. And therefore, I spent a lot of time during lockdown to support the well-being of the staff who were under enormous pressure dealing with all the COVID issues. Community was pouring funds in, and I was in a fortunate position as a chair to make sure that the well-being of our staff was well looked after. If I really look at, in terms of change making, if I look at the lesson I learned out of the pandemic, it really is that never underestimate the power of humanity and resilience of people, especially when their back is up. I say that not because of the COVID or vaccines or anything, but because I also volunteered as an NHS volunteer to check in and chat during the lockdown, which was basically to ring people up. You get the ping and you have to ring people up just to see that they're okay when they're isolating on their own, vulnerable. And I used to call 4 or 5 people a day on that basis. And almost everybody, despite their situation, would be so caring about others. Oh, no, I don't want to be trouble to others. I am fine. You don't worry. What can I do to help others? And to me, that's actually truly reflection of humanity as well as resilience. So I think that probably sums up where I am, my journey. My passion, as I said, is making a difference, helping people change their lives through education, health, and well-being. Lesson for everybody, really: change is inevitable. We accept it or we fight it. You know the 3 phases of change: denial, delaying, and doing. I would always advocate, let's get on to doing as quickly as we can. It's not always easy, but we get there. I'm going to now shut up and give you the opportunity to take forward any questions you may have.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And I think it was a very powerful one as well. You know, where you were kind of you have linked humanity to the work that you're doing, and you have kind of, you're kind of linking that back to mental wellness and trying to talk about space. And really what you're saying there is that the power lies with people. And that's quite important. And I think I've heard so much about from the Canals and Rivers Trust, from Kamla Patni, who is also the founder of Celebrate Our Similarities, and who is also basically conceptualized this event of conversation with influencers, South Asian influencers. So I'll now invite her back into the studio to tell us a little bit around cause, and what cause is trying to do, and how cause visualizes, and about your journey as well.
Hi, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be involved in the Manav Utsav festival. We were very proud to be involved last year, and we're even more proud this year to be contributing something towards the South Asian Heritage Month celebrations. So COS stands for Celebrate Our Similarities, and I hope you can see it behind me there. So we're about recognizing our human similarities. So we want to encourage individuals to engage with us and enable us to bring about change through identifying good practice examples. And we've got two main themes. We're looking at climate change and personal peace. Personal peace is my personal favorite in terms of that's been my passion for, since I was very young anyway, about justice and, empathy and sympathy and charity and that kind of thing. But in particular, I'm very interested in a good practice example that COS has adopted and we are delivering from a US charity called the Peace Education Program. And it's having a huge impact around the world. And we want to, with Leicester being the most diverse city in the UK, we want to see if there's scope for utilizing all, I think it's over 30 languages that this program has been translated into. And it's developed by an individual called Prem Rawat, and he's worked on this for 50 years, more than 55 years actually, and developed this, and happened to come to Leicester in 1971. So he's a South Asian origin person, and we as COS think that should be something that Leicester should be proud of the impact that's been made. And connecting that and climate change to the UN SDGs. So we're really proud that our own, I've studied at De Montfort University many, many years ago when it was a Leicester Poly. And what we want to do is to work with the DMU on your, immense responsibility actually, but also a huge opportunity that the United Nations has given the DMU in, designating it as a international hub for Goal 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. And the head of the UN, Antonio Guterres, actually said that the Goal 16 is the most important goal, without which none of the others can be achieved. And, the De Montfort Uni is the only uni in the UK to be identified as an international hub. So we want to be able to do something that actually contributes from a grassroots level, community level. And we're now working on climate change, which is, I believe, the De Montfort Uni's priority area as well. So in terms of actual plans, we want to deliver, as we did last year online, we want to now deliver a live event in September, October time, COVID permitting, of course. And we want to deliver a live event based on the International Day of Peace, which we did last year and it was very successful online. But now we have a number of organizations who are wanting to collaborate with us. And if there are any others that are listening in and want to collaborate with us, we would welcome your involvement. The details you can come through on Utsav, and we've also got our own email that you'll see. So we want to do 2 events this year, if it is possible, live. September on International Day of Peace, where we will deliver all of the lovely things that local communities are doing relating to peace. And in November, we want to deliver what we're calling as a satellite type of event to coincide with COP26 on climate change. These are the 2 most important areas that Leicester should be focusing on, to be honest, in my opinion. And here's a grassroots organization willing to bring people together. And we so need it in Leicester at the moment. We've been particularly hit badly by not just COVID, but also sort of bad practices in the workplace, issues around the clothing industry as well, which has been a central area of our economy. So we want to, make change happen through action. And we have long-term plans. We want to identify good practice examples in, under those two main themes. We identify areas such as food, water, air, well-being, mental health, equality, good sleep. And we want to then engage with as many individuals and organizations. And one of our key areas is to actually encourage institutions and organizations to actually sign the Pledge to Peace, and actually we will work with them to develop ideas. So if you think that this kind of an online event is a useful way of engaging with people, well, please get in touch and we will give you ideas about how you can do it practically as well. So in a nutshell, that's where we are. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yes, and that was, again, very powerful and reminds me of a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. I'm sure you guys have heard it before. It's called, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." And what Celebrate Our Similarities is saying is that we have got things, we have got potential, we want to provide that together. We want to bring in people together to make change happen. And that's excellent. Thank you very much for that. And can I also ask if you can help me hosting it if I need, because I can see myself breaking up on screen sometimes. So it looks like my data can be trimming. And if that is so, then please extend your helping hand.
Yeah, sure. So not.
Thank you.
You'll have to let me know when you want me to help.
I will, definitely. Yeah. Fantastic. So that brings us to invite someone who has been quite central to Leicester in how they have worked and the sectors that they work in and the people that they work with. There's a endless list. I'm not going to go through that. However, to introduce Kirit Mistry, he is the chair of South Asian Health Action and the volunteer coordinator for Race on the Agenda-ROTA. Welcome to the event, Kirit. How are you today? You're muted.
Favorite word, mute. So yeah, thank you for having me, and it's really good to work with yourself and also COS as well, in terms of, and the other partners for this second year of Utsav, and also the celebrating South Asian Heritage Month. So really glad to join this event today with other colleagues who are and influencers. So looking forward to sharing some of my experiences and ways that we should be working in the future.
Thank you very much. Yes. And, my question to you would be like, how do you, where did you start? What are you working on? And there are so many different areas that you have worked on. How have you kept yourself motivated and all of that? So if you tell us a little bit of that story, then that would be really wonderful for our audience, but also how they can connect with you.
Okay, well, I'm going to start when I was a young person, and that's many years ago. And obviously, I was finding it hard to be active in UK with youth organisations, even the national organisations. So I thought, sod getting involved in national youth councils or youth organisations. I'll go to Europe because that's where my interest was. So as a young person, I started to network with various youth organisations, minority organisations, platforms that were connected with the Council of Europe, the European Commission, and through that, I was fortunate to be involved with an organisation called Minorities of Europe, and that was my initial kind of road into being active as a youth person from a minority background, because we were finding that as a minority, it's harder for us to be active. We don't get the votes. We can't be influencing youth structures on a local or a national or even on a regional level. So we decided that Creating our own platforms would help us to give organizations like the United Nations, which we were fortunate to influence their World Conference on Racism, take 50 young people from the UK to the conference in Durban. And kind of that's where my interest was. So I worked on various, for the Council of Europe, we had on a campaign called All Different, All Equal. And it was a youth campaign to try and bring in tackling racism, xenophobia, and other kind of discrimination. So that was kind of where I started my journey back in many years ago, when I won't say how old I am, but that was my motivation. And then since then, I was really interested in tackling race equality, and that kind of carried on my journey in all the work I've done since. So really, my passion has always been to represent, advocate people who don't have a voice. And that's whether it's young people, whether it's people with various health challenges. So myself, being a type 2 diabetic, started to champion patient voices as a diabetic, and realized that in Leicester, we didn't have a patient voice, South Asian diabetes patient voice. So that's where I established our South Asian diabetes support group. And then for me, it's been about, again, our voice as a patient, as a voice from a Black, Asian or minority background. We weren't able to, it's great to hear Anil's story being, getting involved on all these boards and structures. But the challenge I was seeing was that they were all white, and they weren't reflective of the demographic populations that these organizations should be serving. So by knocking on all these doors, knocking on the NHS, I managed to get myself on the patient voice group at the local CCG. Then I thought, well, regionally, we had an organization called the Academic Health Science Network, and we had a patient public involvement structure, and again, was not very diverse. And then slowly got involved there, tried to, it's not about getting involved, it's about making sure we open the doors for others to follow and provide support to people who lack confidence. They need mentoring, they need buddying. So that's what I've been doing over the last years. And now setting up South Asian Health Action was a charity that I set up in 2017. And it was set up because at the time I was working for 2 hospital trusts around promoting organ donation, blood donation, stem cell donation, particularly within the South Asian and the faith communities, because organ donation was, those communities were more in need, but less donating. And there was a lot of cultural and religious taboos that need to be challenged. So the reason how we set up South Asian Health Action was because we created the framework of recruiting people with lived experiences who've had a transplant, who've donated. They were the right ambassadors, they were the right messengers, and then created 25 in Leicester, 25 in Derby. And after 4 years of this community engagement project, both hospital trusts decided that we had done enough engagement. So I was left home, and I was left to look at, what do I do? I've got 50 passionate people. So I said, sod the trust, I'll set up my own charity. That's where we set up South Asian Health Action. And since then, for the last 4 years, it's just been, we're all volunteers. We've got ambassadors in diabetes, ambassadors for kidney disease, organ donation, and more recently, we've created the ambassadors for mental health. And for me, that's been the journey. It's about, when doors are closed, you don't let them, you have to kick them down and open them. And that's what I do. It's about working in collaboration. So I now work with national charities, work with the government. I'm also thankful and privileged to be, director of Hindu Council UK, and I lead on the health portfolio. So it's been about trying to work with organizations collaboratively and making sure that, it's not about me, it's not about Kirit Mystery, it's about making sure our communities are engaged effectively. We look at challenging, my passion is health inequalities. So anyone who wants to address health inequalities, that's the dialogue I'd like to have. And I can go on like Anil Bhai, so I'm going to just stop there. But I think, what I said is about, we as influencers, we have to open the doors, we have to support, mentor, nurture our younger generation coming through. And since that's been since I started as a youth worker many years ago, we've now set up a youth charity called Ekiam UK. And again, we're trying to do that with with Gevel and other colleagues to try and bring the young voices, because they are the future. So that's where I think we have to ensure it's no point having our masters or our PhDs, of all these qualifications, if we really don't work in our communities and bring those generations who are less fortunate forward. So thank you.
That's a fantastic one. And I think that, we have seen that in your work, how you have tried to kind of build and empower different communities and the work that you have done. And most recently, we have got trained as well, as mental health ambassadors. And that kind of training was really good. And there was a real gap, which I think, again, is something that's going to help build Leicester back, as we want to. And as you said, we have to all give back. And that's important, that whatever work we do, if we are not giving that to the society, we will be creating that gap and we will be responsible for it too. So for the future generation, yes, we are all here. And I believe that that's why CAUSE also kind of, they conceptualize this project where we can bring all the influencers and then we can work together in different capacities. So thank you very much to you, Kirit. We'll come back to you all again. Yeah, say.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I think just one quick thing. I think it's important. Like you had Professor Nandini yesterday, and again, it was useful because she's helped us with the Mental Health Ambassador Project. She's a trainer for World Health Organization, and I think that's the kind of, we need to identify key influencers to help shape our work. And thank you for having me today.
That's fantastic. Yes, and she was in our and possibly she's going to join us today as well at some point. And so thank you very much. Yes, and on that note, I will like to invite Dr. Lipika Dekar. Dr. Lipika Dekar is a senior lecturer in computer science at the School of Computer Science and Informatics and a member of the Institute of Artificial Intelligence, as well as the Software Technology Research Laboratory at De Montfort University. So welcome to you, Dr. Lipika Dekar.
Thank you.
I hope my voice is not breaking up. That's what I'm conscious about. No. Thank you very much for joining us today. How are you? How are things going on?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here, and it's been so inspiring actually to hear the previous members speaking, panelists. It's yes, with the sort of the breadth of the work that's been done by each of them. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. And so as you have seen, like with the discussion as it's going on, of course, we are kind of trying to look into how and what you have done, how have your journey started, and how did you navigate through the struggles and hurdles, and some kind of tips and advices for our audience as well. So would you like to share a little bit of that journey with us today?
Yes, of course, Indrani. My pleasure. I think as I share this journey, the one thing that I would like to sort of say that covers everything is that nothing should really stop you, and just being a Southeast Asian or any other community does not really hamper you to get into whether it's a certain place in your career or in life. And that's sort of something that I would like to sort of pass as I say. So I come from the northeast of India. I come from a place called Assam, and you get the tea from our place in the supermarkets in the UK. And we are also known for the one-horned rhino. And so it's and we don't have too many of Assamese people in the UK, and especially in Leicester and in Leicestershire. It's very county around, I think, 5 or 6 families that we have. So I come from there, and I've done all my education in India and Assam, right to the PhD. So my engineering, my master's, and my PhD was there. So I basically got married to my husband, who's an academic at Loughborough University, and then I sort of thought that, if I do my PhD, because at that time I was just at the sort of end of my first year at my PhD, and I thought if I do my PhD in India, I will not be able to get a job in the UK, and it sort of worried me. And but he said that no, it's better to continue with the journey rather than have a break and come back. So I continued. And I sort of proved myself wrong, because as soon as I came to the UK after completing my PhD, I got a postdoctoral position at Loughborough University. And this is where I say that if you want to do something, I think, there isn't anything that can stop you. And then once I finished my postdoctoral research for, I think it was around 1.5 to 2 years at Loughborough University, I then got a lecturership position at De Montfort University, and the rest is history. So as I came into De Montfort University, there were a lot of students that we dealt with. So I basically teach, do research, as well as at the moment I hold a position called the Faculty Head of Research Students, where I basically look after the research students in the faculty, and that's around 210 students. So what basically we saw was that there was very few people or few students who would come from, Leicester and the surrounding areas. And whoever did come, and they would say that they are probably the first people from their family to be in the university. So there was this, the feeling that, a little bit of scared, you're a little bit of scared. You're also, then how do you encourage these students to then move forward? And we need more of such, students coming into the university. And that's when I say that, if anyone from Leicester is listening, it's that if you have got that ambition, we are here to support you, to encourage you, and to, sort of take that journey. And then again, I think there isn't anyone within the faculty at the moment who is from an, and Southeast Asian background from Leicester doing a PhD, especially not in computer science or engineering. And that is something that we would really encourage, people to get into that and see that, yes, it's possible. All of us can do it. And we are here to help you with guidance, with encouragement, with, the topics that you would like to work on. And then it's again, like as Kirit said, it's like, when you do things, you then give back to the society, give back to Leicester what you'll be working on. For example, in the research, I'm working on basically a project with Indrani, and another project which is very Leicester based. So we are looking at the transport in Leicester and how cycles that would be introduced in Leicester would help the community. So, it's very Leicester focused. How do we make it, again, as Kamla said, it's very much interlinked with climate change. Again, transport is a huge factor for climate change, and how that, how bringing in cycling and the sort of business model that London has, how will it, work with Leicester? What will be the take up? And so we are sort of looking into that area. And again, with Indrani, we are looking into what we sort of term as iMuseum, and an intelligent museum, where we are trying to see how we can bring in the stories of all the people in the, ethnic Leicester. How do we bring those stories together to be able to then link those stories and tell it to the future generation in a way that is real? It makes them feel that they have walked the path of their ancestors or their predecessors of Leicester through virtual realities, through artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So it's really, great to be on this platform, and things which previous members have said, like climate change and mental health, very much close to the research that I would like to do, and I'm doing. I'm working on climate change, especially with agriculture, but that then again relates to many other things that's more or less the focused. So I think that sort of sums up to where I am today and what we do. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Deepika. Yes, I mean, as we have said at the beginning as well, that we will need the help of every single of you who are here today, but also beyond, if you can connect us, because we will be building this iMuseum, which is going to tell the story in a way, it's going to be a museum of untold stories in Leicester, and we're quite passionate about it. And on that note, we have got someone joining us now, Sanjay Bhandari, and he is the chair at Check It Out, and he is doing some massive work with the government and other organizations. So welcome, Sanjay Bhandari.
Hi there.
Hello, how are you today?
Yeah, good. A bit tired, but I'm good.
Thanks for joining us today. And I know that you can't stay for long, so we thought that we will bring you in now and just ask them how, what you're doing and how you are seeing the challenges and what you think about the future and what needs to be done. So any kind of advice, but also a little bit of journey and the works that you do.
Yes, so I'll tell you about a little bit what I do. So the journey, I mean, I had a career in professional services. So I had a 30-year career, kind of split half and half. I was a lawyer. For half of that, I spent my time doing international crime, asset tracing, cross-border fraud, chasing money around the world for big corporations when they get defrauded, working with the serious fraud office, helping them on some of the investigations, because we would nearly always have the witnesses and the documents. So the first case I had, back in 1990, was worth, I think, $4 or $5 billion at the time. So, multi-billion dollars in today's money. And then I sort of shifted halfway through my career. I helped to write the English court rules on how we deal with electronic evidence. And so I then went and built technology businesses. And so I built a sort of legal compliance technology and was a partner in one of the big four at EY for 12 years. And then I moved off doing sort of practice building, sort of internal entrepreneur, the chief innovation officer role, and so on. But I've always had side hustles right from when I was a junior lawyer doing pro bono work for prisoners on death row in Trinidad, through to being a stand-up comedian for 2 years, through to, in the last sort of 12 years, I was a partner sponsor for our Asian network at EY, and then I got involved in race strategy and was sort of a national lead for that. And then off the back of that, I did the Parker Review on ethnicity on UK boards, where we hosted the launch of that 3 or 4 years ago, looking at the FTSE 100. It was a government-sponsored initiative. And off the back of that, I then started working football, which has always been my biggest hobby, working with the Premier League on their equality standard as one of the independent panelists. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to move to more of a portfolio career, to go from sort of straight career into doing a combination of things. So I have 2 or 3 charity roles. Kick It Out is the biggest of the charity roles that I have. I chair the charity. It's football's leading equality and inclusion organisation. I work with a small charity called the Alito Foundation, which is a social mobility charity. We look to train 2,000 future leaders, all from sort of poor backgrounds, very often from Black, Asian, or dual heritage backgrounds. I am on the board of a charity called Greater Sport, which is about getting people active in the city of Manchester, getting 2 million people active in the city. And then I have a bit of a paid portfolio. So I'm just about to join the Lawn Tennis Association as a non-executive director. I'm a non-executive director at the Serious Fraud Office, and I'm also chair of the Satellite Applications Catapult, which is one of the government-sponsored catapults that incubate innovation across an industry. So our role over the next 9 to 10 years is to build a space technology in the economy in the UK. We think the global space technology economy will be worth about 400 billion in 2030, and so our challenge is to get our fair share of that in the UK. So lots of different things, and I also still do some consulting with some clients on normally around technology growth and innovation. So I basically do things that I'm really interested in and passionate about. And football is a hobby, and when Kick It Out came up, obviously I've been going to football since the 1970s. It's something I'm passionate about, and so it's been very active over the last year, 2 years. It's been a huge part of my day-to-day work. I've donated quite a lot of my time to it over the last couple of years, and yeah, there's quite a lot going on there's quite a lot going on in football around race and other sort of discrimination and equality issues. That probably tells you a little bit of, as you can tell, I did quite a lot of things, and I'm interested in quite a lot of things, and I always had been interested in a lot of things, and I think it's quite tempting. You know, we spend most of our careers just doing one thing, and actually most of us aren't just one thing. Most of us are interested in lots of things, but I'm lucky at the stage of my career where I can do all the different things that I'm interested in.
Thank you very much. And I think that's the interesting bit, isn't it? So and now I know why you are so busy and you can only spend just about 15 minutes.
I'm meant to be on holiday as well this week. So.
You must have been in the European Cup as well, like have been watching that and all of that. Yes.
Yeah, I was at Wembley for all of those games. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, but thank you very much. I mean, yes, I mean there are works that we can do, of course, together going forward, and there are areas of collaboration that we can, again, you know, if you want to, and we can also get in touch with you, definitely. And thanks for your time today. And on that note, I am going to bring in Dr. Sudhir Shetty. And he has been a consultant in child health over the 20 years in UK, and he did his earlier training in Mumbai University. So again, we're going to listen to another fascinating story there. So welcome to the Manav Utsav, Dr. Sudhir Shetty. I'm not sure if I'm frozen, if you can all hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome to
the Manav
today. Yes, I can. Yeah. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about your journey? And I know I did see that you have worked in the Balkans during the conflict and international health as a conflict and international health aid worker, and you have worked as a consultant in for WHO in their child health IMCI program. Not the fields that I know about, but we would all like to learn a bit more about. So if you can tell us a little bit around, you know, the works that you have done, the struggles that you have faced, the hurdles that you have overcome, and that brings you up today here. Thank you.
No, thank you. First of all, can I thank you and Kamala for these amazing people I've just heard and I'm going to hear. I finished my specialist training in Mumbai, came to UK, finished my training, became a consultant here in pediatrics, child health, and that's what I'm doing now. So, but in addition to that, I got involved in some other things as well, which I feel will be of interest. One of them was to do with you know, the training health workers in grassroots level health organization, integrated management of childhood illnesses program. So I'm a consultant for them, though I haven't done any work for them recently because of the issues going on. In addition to that, I also came across this girl-child issue, gender selection. So that I took it right up to the United Nations Committee of the Rights of the Child. And I spoke about that and was invited to a few meetings around that. This I'm telling you beyond NHS work. The other one, which is a Rotary. I'm a member of a Rotary Club, and they have Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group called SRAG. So that's just beginning to happen in the UK now. And in addition to that, you know, I realized, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, about the issues around South Asian health and predominantly chronic illnesses. So I got involved with an organization in some of you may have heard of, called Sharan. It's called Sanctuary for Health and Reconnection to Animal and Nature. And they are predominantly focused on diabetes-free India, eventually is their vision. So I became a consultant for them, and I've actually also seen some some patients from all over the globe, and also participating in activity around basically remission of diabetes and support. So that's essentially in NHS also, other than being a pediatrician, is also child protection. So I'm also a trustee for a charity called AFRUCA, which is Africans Unite Against Child Abuse. So coming to what we are talking about, South Asians, I do feel, and again, it's just an observation, that South Asians done really well in their profession, in their business, also in addition to having a lot of focus on education and also their religion and culture. But I do feel that as far as health is concerned, we could do better. And again, I want to just emphasize, and looking at the issue around diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, I feel that we need to work towards empowerment and ownership of managing this within the community and family level. And I had a long conversation with Kirith Mistry, who spoke earlier on this subject, and I feel personally that a lot has changed in diabetic management, and I feel personally that we can actually avoid diabetes, control diabetes, and also prevent complication, with concern. I did a program for Kohinoor Radio, which is local to Leicester, and I was quite surprised when I was told that, well, this is in our genes. And all I'll say is the genes is not your destiny. Genes will actually give you a loaded gun, but you have to press the trigger, and we should remember not to press the trigger. And if you already know that this is running, in the genes as such, then you should be even more careful in how you lead your life. So that's in a summary. So my working for the NHS as a consultant in various places. I was in Leicester for a long period. Now I'm in Northwest. But my focus is now towards helping Sharon achieve their vision about diabetes-free India, or diabetes-free Asians, South Asians or Indians. And I feel personally that will be my focus of work for years to come. As time goes by, my NHS work will reduce, and I want to do that more and more. So that's in a nutshell and about my vision. And vision without a plan is just a wish. And I feel this is an amazing forum where we can actually start planning beyond what is already being done. So that's just to summarize, my journey as well as my plan for the future.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Thank you. And I think that, yes, it kind of, these are the kind of platform, and that's how I visualized Manav Utsav, which is basically a human festival. So we're kind of all coming together, bringing our expertise and trying to build our future. And definitely will collaborate going forward. And that makes me to now, we have got Umesh Prabhu, who is the medical director at NHS, and he is passionate about patient safety, professional regulation, and why doctors make mistakes, organizational culture, leadership, and many more. What I quite got impressed about while going through the LinkedIn profile was where he said, every human being has a role to play, and for me, every human being matters, and I respect everyone. Welcome to the Manav Utsav, Umesh Prabhuji.
Hello, Ji.
I can't actually see you. I'm not sure whether you can hear us properly.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah. How are you today?
I'm very well. So I'm doing work in India now. So trying to help NHS from getting doctors and nurses to NHS. That's
right, and it's a massive kind of work that's going on, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. And there's a very
Yeah.
And I think we must be very proud of our culture Indian heritage.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed your program very much.
Thank you very much. I mean, what we are trying to do is to kind of understand and listen from you all, that what has been your journey like, and how have you managed to stay motivated, and what influences you to go forward, and and any kind of advice for our audience today. So would you like to share a little bit of that journey? I know that it's a bit difficult maybe with the connection and everything there. So if you can give us a little bit of or share a little bit of that journey, that would be wonderful, really. Thank you.
No, I developed interest in patient safety after my own mistake. And then I try to understand why doctors make mistakes. And doctors are human beings, and we all make mistakes. And to err is human, and we have to learn from them. And I keep myself inspired by youngsters inspire me. And, COVID has taught us a lot. Many people have died due to COVID. And many families have suffered. And now with vaccine success rate, hopefully we will be moving forward and we will be developing a great nation. And that is what. And with Brexit, there is a fantastic opportunity for India and UK to grow together.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yes, and I think that I wish you all the best in your efforts and your time that you're spending there as well. And yes, so I'll bring you back for our next round of discussion around change. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So now what we will do is we have got, we are coming mostly towards the end of our first round, but I'll bring in Dr. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my list up here. Yes, so we're going to get Dr. Badri Narayanan Gopalakrishnan, who is an economist. So he's an applied economist with 18 plus years of experience and expertise in economic modeling, data science, in many areas such as international trade, energy, agriculture, industry, and health. And the impact of new technologies like drones, robots, 3D printing, nanotechnologies, etc. He was about to join us today, however, he couldn't because he got drawn into another meeting. So he has sent us a short video that I would like to play now. Thank you very much.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Badri Narayanan Gopalakrishnan, and I'm delighted to be part of this wonderful forum. Thank you, Kamalaji and Dr. Indrani and others for organizing this and for inviting me. So I'm based out of Seattle, USA, Washington State, and I'm an economist. I work on a wide range of public policy and business strategy issues with many clients across the world. My main focus is doing quantitative research and modeling to understand various problems that we are all facing as a society and economy and business. So in this context, I've been looking at a wide range of pressing economic, social, and global issues which affect all of us, they range from issues as diverse as international trade, public health. This for example, the ongoing COVID pandemic that we are facing, environmental aspects, energy, technology, new technologies and how they impact the humanity, and many more topics. So what I wanted to discuss here was some learnings from my life, career, and work on the kind of issues that is of interest in this esteemed forum. The first thing I wanted to mention is about the mental health related aspects. So how much is it important when it comes to peace at large in the society? In some of my analysis, I found that the economic burden of mental health is huge. It can be like even take a couple of diseases, like a couple of problems or disorders or diseases that are part of mental health issues. Let's think about like depression or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So if you take any of them, so you're looking at billions of dollars lost in economic burden, because we know the social and personal losses that we face because of these diseases. But it's important to put things in perspective, think in terms of also think in terms of numbers. No, I'm not saying that you should only think in terms of dollars, but also think along those terms. So it's a huge issue when it comes to the broad impact on the society and the economy across the world, not only within a small community or country, but it's a global issue for sure, and it's increasing more and more, and hence the burden associated with it is also increasing. So I would actually propose to the people here and also people across the world, policymakers and others, to seriously consider this aspect, how the importance of mental health, preserving mental health, nurturing mental health, because I think it is important to think of it in terms of wealth and economic aspects. So mental wealth is something that we can think about, and a country or a society can be peaceful, can be prosperous only if mental health is prominently positive in the society. And lastly, very very briefly, I want to also touch upon the South Asian community, where traditionally speaking, there are both strengths and weaknesses in terms of handling mental health. So we have had great techniques and methods like yoga and meditation, which keep our mental health really positively. But at the same time, when it comes to a chronic problem related to mental health or something serious, we traditionally have a tendency to kind of discount it or not take it seriously, take treatment and so on. So I think these are the two diametrically opposite dimensions of mental health in the context of South Asia, and I think it's important to take the positives and address the weaknesses, and create awareness and talk to people across the board to be open and transparent and not shy about any mental health issues. Thank you so much, and I hope this event becomes a grand success, as it always has been in this forum. And I also apologize for not being able to participate in person, because I had some other prior engagements that were conflicting. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day and year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gopalakrishnan there. And we have also got, before we just, we're thinking of starting our discussion around change in 5 minutes. But before that, and in between, we will also play a couple of videos that has been sent by other influencers, which we have played yesterday, but we're going to play some other messages from them today as well. So please stay with us. And we have got now again Professor Nandini Chakraborty, who is a consultant psychiatrist at NHS. She did join our panel yesterday, but she couldn't, of course, she has got some work to do and she couldn't join us this evening. However, she has sent her a short video that we would like to play now. Thank you.
In 24 years as a psychiatrist, I consider myself extremely fortunate to have had the opportunities of practicing in various settings in different countries and continents. I did my first house job in Kolkata, Calcutta Medical College, where my patient population was largely urban with a substantial number of villagers who had walked long distances to come and see us in clinic. We had people from neighboring countries with porous borders. And then I did my MD in Ranchi, my first exposure to a completely different culture within India, a predominantly rural, often tribal population. Then coming to the UK, my first job was in Scotland. I learned the differences between a Glasgow accent and an Ayrshire accent, the history of the local population and its mining past. There is actually an old mining village in Ayrshire called Patna, named after the Patna, the capital of Bihar, we all know. Then coming to Leicester, mind-blowing cultural diversity. I can have clinics, sometimes where out of 8 patients, 5 speak languages other than English. My charity work has taken me to rural Nigeria. My overall reflection from all this experience is that whilst it is extremely important to understand the cultural differences in what constitutes normal, or even the cultural differences in the presentations of various illnesses, whether it is psychosis or depression, it is also a revelation that the same patterns, the same form of illness can exist throughout the world across countries and continents, irrespective of the language, socioeconomic status, skin color, and environmental settings. My favorite research study in this regard is what is called the International Pilot Study of Schizophrenia, or IPSS, done in the 1970s. It was done across 9 countries in 5 continents, which showed that schizophrenia exists in the same form everywhere. We can train professionals to ask the same questions to diagnose it. The study also showed that in spite of differences, deep down, humans are very similar. We have the same vulnerabilities. In rural Nigeria, what convinced primary health workers we were training about mental illness, that mental illness was a chemical imbalance and not evil spirits, is when they heard that people, patients around the world experienced the same symptoms. I remember the surprise in the primary care worker when I mentioned that people in India suffering from psychosis hear voices, and so do people in the UK. They seemed really surprised by that. Cultural sensitivity is not necessarily accepting everything within a culture. If there is a societal culture in a certain area of domestic abuse, of alcohol abuse, of women being considered little more than property, of course, that is not to be accepted. But change comes slowly and it cannot be enforced. It has to come from within. Being a culturally sensitive mental health practitioner to me is being equally aware of cultural issues and the humanity that binds us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chakravarti there. And, it's fascinating because what she was talking about there is something that we have also experienced through one of our projects in India, which is called the Me Health project that we are working on at the moment. And we are trying to experiment with drama and theatre to improve mental health literacies. And the project is led by Professor Raghu Raghavan from, Health and Life Sciences at De Montfort University. So there are a lot of similarities and there are lots of work that still needs to be done. And on that note, I think it's very important that we all kind of try and visualize change. And I would like to bring back all of our participants and influencers today in this event. And then we want to try that discussion happening now and see how we all visualize change. Thanks all for coming back and to the studio now. So my question is that it has been quite a fascinating discussion till now, and we have learned quite a lot, and we have got different expertise that we can bring in. If I tell you, what is the thing that you visualize as change, or what one thing that you want to change in the future, and you see that change happening, and you want to work towards it, what would that change look like for you, or how do you visualize that? So I'll just ask you to, maybe we don't have a technical hand here, but we can raise our own hand and say, well, and then we can carry on. Human hand. Yes, Kirit, go for it.
Okay, so I think whether we like it or not, the reality is that I would like to see that we tackle discrimination of all people with, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism, whether it's disability. That's what we need to be looking at, because these are the communities, these are the voices that are powerless in terms of trying to address the discrimination they face. So working collaboratively together, putting our skills together, our knowledge and our contacts, we have to talk about it, create those conversations and not shy away from it. And that's what I'd like us to leave this and get this listeners who are tuning in today, is that we have to work together to fight discrimination.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yes. And I think that's quite important, because we can't make change happen if we carry on with the discriminations that's already there and we don't address it. So thank you very much. Yes. So next, shall we go to who's raising hand? I'm just trying to see hands over there. Dr. Sacheti, would you like to comment?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I think, since I focused on diabetes, I do feel that we need to also again repeat myself. It's about empowering, families, individuals within themselves, and also taking an ownership on their own health. I do feel that this is one area within the South Asian population where I feel that there has to be greater focus. We have made great strides in other areas, as I mentioned before, but I feel taking health within their own hands and being empowered to manage it within the community level, within the family level, is something, a change I'd like to see. And I'd like to support as much as I can, because I have a level of experience which I feel can be translated to the local population as well.
And, just a question there regarding, because you mentioned diabetes.
Yeah.
And do you think that there is a lot where, or there is an area where, there might be devices, or there might be some sort of help that might come in from artificial intelligence background, or even if there are, scopes to work along the roads of diabetes and mental health? Do you think that there is a kind of a sync there?
No, I think, what you say is quite valid, but I feel personally that this this work can be done by very simple interventions, but evidence-based interventions. And I feel that even for that matter, I had a long conversation with Kirita as well, is about, if we give dietary advice, but if dietary advice is focused on the Western diet, Western recipes or Western meals, then that's not easy to apply at the, at an Asian kitchen level as such. And I feel personally that also reassuring the families, but look, diabetes, though it's running down the generation, doesn't have to be that way, because we are not sure about any established genetic link. There's a huge amount of environmental factors as well. There may be some predispositions, but I feel it can be managed. So once people know that it's not inevitable that they're going to have diabetes, I think they will take action. And once I've seen this within my patient group as well. I got International Board for Lifestyle Medicine certification because I had to do something for adult medicine as well. That these patients are now helping each other. One who has gone into remission, came off insulin, came off medication, is now helping a few others who are nearly off medication. So I feel we may start small, like any change, but then the growth becomes exponential, and then it becomes very significant after initial slow start. So let's make a start. This is starting is half done. Let's make a start and say that, look, we need to actually empower and encourage families with the knowledge, with the with the skills, and with the help available to bring about the change at each household level. Through Kohinoor Radio, I was quite surprised to see that every third house in certain part of Leicester has got uncontrolled diabetes. This should not be happening. And I feel the long-term implication of the complication, I don't have to go into medical details in this meeting, are quite significant. So I feel there is a window of opportunity where we can manage it. And I'm sure Kirith may have his own views on that.
Thank you very much. No, that's wonderful. Yes, yeah. Great. You wanted to comment?
I think Dr. Seth is right. It's about, from our perspective of our patient group, it's our motto is we have to control our diabetes, not let diabetes control us. And we've got within our patient group people who have managed it well, people who haven't managed it. So we've got to point out that there is support. You mentioned mental health. There is a link around mental health and diabetes. But the challenge, I think I was speaking with Dr. Seth yesterday, is we have to look at the behavior change and get that into our psychology of how we live our life, and look at the things we need to bring in and take out. And again, it's working with Dr. Seth. Sharon is a great organization, but the most important thing is we've had to do it ourselves. We are developing cultural, sensitive educational programs. We've just started one in Northampton. We're having to develop that because the current programs that the NHS have don't really hit the cultural sensitivity of the work from our community, from our diet, from etc. And it's not just about education. It's about how do you apply that knowledge and education? How do you prepare the meal? How do you create what kind of portion size? What ingredients you put in? It's demonstrations. It's more visual as opposed to reading books. And I think that's what sometimes the education is missing. And I think Sharon have done some really good work on that. And again, from our South Asian Health Action, we've worked with the CCG to look at healthy recipes by dietitians. So we need to get more of our South Asian dietitians, South Asian health professionals to work with us as patients, because everything has to be done from a co-design, co-produce process. And that's the way we have to work it in the future. So thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And I think Kamla wanted to come in there regarding, yes, Kamla, please.
Yeah, I mean, not wanting to move from the discussion that's just happened, but in general, recently we had discussions with the previous police commissioner and chief constable. So these are related subjects for the South Asian community. And one of the things that came out from that meeting, and we were trying to describe why, because it was South Asians that had approached the individuals for explaining what the situation is in the community, And we were trying to explain what the situation was and how we think it had come about. So, and he actually did say this, and I think, you know, this is where I'd like to connect it up, is that South Asians, when they came here in the 70s, were very insular. We dealt with things within the home or within the direct community that we were, you know, involved with. And in so being so insular, we have tended not to ask for government support. So, you know, it was taboo to have a council house in those days. It was taboo to go for benefits. And, you know, if you go to the doctors, you don't tell anyone why you went to the doctor and whatever. That was the kind of attitude that we grew up in. And as a result, and that, you know, that's not a derogatory term. It's just that that's the way our culture was. It's changed now to some degree. But in that process, we missed out on encouraging the statutory agencies to develop services around the culture that existed for us. And because other communities were more vocal, they got those services developed and shaped to their needs. But then what's happened is that the older, you know, what's ended up as, you know, the older generations are now not in touch with the current culture of things. So young people are experiencing things that they would have no idea how to handle, understand even, and all of those things. So then there's this dichotomy between the two generations, and the services are not there. And I think that's where we need to now start working together to create, co-create. And I think that particularly since COVID, we are in a position where statutory agencies are open, and we need to have a positive dialogue with them and encourage change through. And obviously, as you can see, Celebrate Similarities is about a positive change through dialogue for us. And I think recently what I've found is that local groups are ready to work together to make that voice stronger. And Celebrate Our Similarities is all about that, to collaborate with others. And we're happy to create a platform, which is what we've said a number of times, where we enable that discussion, for the statutory agencies know that we are not about politics, we are not about religion, we are not about cultural differences, we are, you know, all of those isms and whatever, but we can at least stay relatively independent and help the process, because everybody has different positions, different communities, I mean, but we can bring people together, you know. And I'm not just talking about South Asians here, I'm talking about the way to make change happen, you know. So that's my view.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because, you know, what you're saying there is that, you know, it goes back to the very basics of where we started Manav Utsav. And I think that, you know, unless there is a leveling up, you cannot actually say that everyone is going to be, because everyone is not in a similar situation. So to visualize a world where you're talking about humanity, you need to stress on the agenda of leveling up as well, I believe. And that's something that's quite important, isn't it? And again, links back to what we are today and how we are facing. Yes, Lipika, please come in.
Sorry, I had muted myself. I think I just wanted to bring in where you said that leveling up, and what sort of Kamla said, the divide between the generations. And this is where I see technology coming in, whether be it artificial intelligence, whether be it sensors, whether be it, you know, anything that, you know, data and harnessing that data can do in leveling up that divide between generations, and making many things which probably are not accessible for the older generation more accessible. and how do we do that in a way that respects and appreciates that they have not grown up in that particular generation or technology driven generation. And I think that is where we need to, because the future, irrespective of what we think and what we are doing, it's very, very technology driven, especially with what we have seen in COVID and how COVID, probably the, how the lockdown and everything, it forced a certain generation to sort of, learn those various tactics, or even if they did not learn those technologically driven, the equipments, they sort of lost out and became more isolated, and then hampering their mental well-being more. So I think with all these, that tying in and seeing how technology could be used to bring those two generations together, leveling up, is where I think things should go, or the change that Indrani says that we would like to see, and that's something. So a technology that has actual impact on the people that we need to see the impact on.
And this is very important, Deepika. Thank you very much, because you brought in.
If I may, sorry.
Yeah. Yes, Anil, come in.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say the broader point, listening to Sudhir, listening to Kirit, Kamla, is that the future of change is going to be collaboration. The GPs or NHS on itself is not going to solve the diabetes problem by dishing out the metformins. Kirit, just by getting leaflets out, isn't going to solve the diabetes problem. I think we are still not collaborating as different organizations to bring the holistic viewpoint. We really do need to bring in loads of collaboration. I think as South Asian organizations, I am really fascinated by what COS does, what you're doing to bring these organizations together, but we will need to be joined up. Because that's the only way we're going to achieve change, by bringing social prescribing, by bringing education, by bringing the medical treatments, by bringing various different voluntary organizations. I think NHS is now looking at that with their integrated care systems, but I do believe there is some way to go for some of our South Asian voluntary organizations. But we need to start being joined up. We need to start collaborating to really make change happen and make it sustainable.
I think that's important. Yes. I mean, sustainable change is something that we are, increasingly, I think that's driving the agenda of a post-pandemic world anyways, because we have to think about, not only just an innovation, but however, we have to think about how to sustain that kind of innovation. And what Deepika was also, if I just integrate the two comments that you and Deepika made, I think what Deepika was talking about, the leveling up, but also to the mental wellness part. I think this the whole narrative is changing in a digital world, because there is togetherness in isolation, So as a person from the, say, for example, from 1960s, possibly we are not going to agree with that. But as a person who is a millennial, they will say, well, I don't want to communicate with my, friends in a room. We don't want to play together, but we want to play collaboratively through our mobile phones, staying in a room, inside the room, however, not actually speaking to each other, but speaking through mobile phones. And this is a kind of a narrative. As I was playing, I've done a few works with children, and I've been talking to lots of young generations who are in the secondary schools at the moment, and I see that they believe that isolation from the family or from the friends, so the physical interactions are not happening, or they're not keen on that. So this whole narrative is changing, and we have to understand, I think, how people understand loneliness and how we connect, or how we define loneliness in a digital world. And that's going to be a very interesting phase. There is nothing right or wrong. We're not saying that the young generation is wrong and the older generations were right. So it's not the right-wrong divide, but it's the learning process that Anil was talking about as well. As we go along, we are trying to learn from what we can learn from the younger generation, but at the same time to kind of provide that space so that we can all learn together. But coming back to a very interesting part that Kirit was saying, and then thinking about what Anil's work, is that when as a diabetic person, so they have got mental health challenges. I've got some lived experiences, and therefore I know about how they go through and what they experience and what they want and how they react. Kirit was saying that there are real mental health challenges there, when you are experiencing or you are in a situation that you have got diabetes. How can the Canals and Rivers Trust help people, providing that space that you have created already for people who want to actually go for a walk, or they want to actually do some sort of outdoor events? Has the Canals and Rivers Trust thought about that, or how you are trying to build that in the future? Would be a good one as a collaborative work, possibly in the future.
Yes. Absolutely. I think future is today. As Canal and River Trust, we are transforming from waterways to waterways and well-being organization. I'm really hot on what I call social prescribing, basically working with medical professions, clinicians, and local voluntary groups who say, let's organize a walk. We always say in Canal and River Trust, life is better by water, right? It helps mental health. It helps on the isolation. It also supports the being active, the obesity issues, the diabetes issues. So we are actually really, really eager to work with communities. I think there are something like 800,000 people who live within 1 kilometer of canals and river waterways within East Midlands. And probably 75% of them may not even realize that there is a canal nearby there. And one of our mission, and as a regional chair, my focus, Leicester is a big area, is to get people out there. It's a free asset for people to go and use. It helps with mental health. It helps with your loneliness. We have volunteers that can actually make sure we say. So our focus, for example, down in Leicester was first question, why aren't people using it, right? So first thing, does it feel safe? Is it clean enough for people to walk? Is there clear signage? So over the last 2 years, we've done a lot of work around that. We've cleared it up. We've made it safer. We're going to have footpath rangers who will be there visible. We have lots of volunteers now keeping it clean. Just for the record, that doesn't mean we're ignoring the environment and the ecology of the canals. We have lots of elements, insects, which we focus on as well. But from the collaboration point of view, one of the key focuses, we want to work with communities, and there are really deprived communities. I think the figure, if I got it right, 60% of that 800,000 are in the deprived community areas, and none of them use the canals, the tow paths we have. And we're on a mission to encourage those people to come and use it. These are wonderful assets on our doorsteps. So yes, the tomorrow is here, and I have been actively going out, or lockdown didn't quite help. Leicester's been in lockdown permanent since last March, 15 months ago, but I'm on an active mission to collaborate whoever I can and support activities. We've already started what I call social prescribing in Nottingham, where we are having prescribing canoeing sessions. So the GPs, the physiotherapists will say, go and do some canoeing. So we will get people into canoes, train them using the canoes. Our problem is, again, sustaining this activities. The medical clinician will say 4 weeks. The issue doesn't go after 4 weeks. So we're looking at how we sustain it. But anybody listening to this has any ideas of whether they want to go for a walk, they need any volunteering support, you have my contact through calls or anywhere. Please get in touch, and we would really love to collaborate, because it's not about diabetes, it's not about mental health, it's about keeping fit, it's about being active, it's about avoiding isolation, And as I keep saying, life is really better by water. I hope that answered your question, Indrani.
Yes, yeah, it does, absolutely. And I think that's, you can also possibly get support from the universities and DMU. Certainly, they look out for students, and if they can get some volunteering experience to work with the local community. And that's going to be some of the, possibly one of the areas that you can explore in the future as well. So definitely going to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for that. So I think, we are towards the end of the session, but I will do another round just to open up the discussion. And if you've got anything to add in, just jump in and add in, and then we will be playing some of the videos from our other influencers who have sent, and then we are going to bring it to an end. So thank you. Open to you all.
Okay, I'll jump in quickly. I think from what Deepika said, and also Anil is look, we do need to be smarter in terms of data, and particularly getting the right equality data is key to get the evidence to challenge the institutions to give that change. That's the first thing. Secondly, I have to kind of disagree with some things that are said. The reason why we are focusing on South Asian communities is because historically, our communities, we know that health inequalities has been there for our communities for many years. We are the highest sufferers of diabetes, highest sufferers of cardiovascular, higher need of kidney disease, kidney transplants. So we have to be real about that's what we need to do in terms of engage our communities, South Asian communities, with messengers, with lived experience messengers who have gone through the troubles of not getting those services, and as a result, they've lost their loved ones. That's the reality. And then finally, look, we can talk about social prescribing, we can talk about, but without collaboration comes a bit later. The first thing we need to do is open the doors into these institutions. We need to create those opportunities. We need to look at those small organizations, those voluntary organizations, those temples, gurdwaras, mosques. We need to bring resources into those institutions. We can't we have to work in collaboration, but we need to create those opportunities first, get the evidence, and then say to the decision makers that, look, for too long, our communities have been underserved, under-resourced, we've been over-researched, right? So now it's about, we have to change the rhetoric. We need to see more resources coming into our communities, and particularly I'm passionate, like Sudhir, in terms of the biggest issue on the NHS at the moment is diabetes. That costs a lot of money. So, and then followed by people who need a kidney transplant, going on dialysis, right, costing the NHS a lot more money. So I'm going to stop there, but I think what we need to do is we need to talk to those decision makers, those institutions, and some of us are in a privileged position because we are sitting in various places where we can influence change. What we need to do is influence that change in a collective voice, not Kirit Mishra going into challenging these organizations and they say, oh, here we go, we've got this activist who's really challenging us. No, we've got to work from a collective voice. And I'm going to stop there, but I think that's been powerful. I'm glad I've joined this discussion today. Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, I think Kirit makes a lot of good point. Can I just bring the last point in, Rani? There was a message I saw flash through the screen from, I think it's Banu. I apologize if I got it wrong, about saying we need to volunteer. I absolutely agree, Banu. We need to volunteer. We need to get in there and make change happen. We can't just sit back and suffer and say we're rich. So I fully support, Banu, your point. Yes, come and volunteer, get the feet in there, and let's make change happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, it's very interesting, and I think that there are, as we share these, people will be more interested in getting engaged, and that's for the purpose of these kind of conversations. And we are building together a future, possibly where how we visualize the change. So thank you very much, really, for all of your contributions today. And unless you want to, anyone else want to comment? Deepika, Kamla, yes, please, Kamla.
Just as a side, I would like to just re-emphasize something I said earlier. We're looking for collaborators and we're looking for sponsors. We want to deliver 2 events, one in September, hopefully live, and we think it's feasible now. Even if it is within the COVID space distance, all of the issues that are current, we would want to do it on that basis, regardless of lockdown restrictions being relaxed. So we want to do 2 events, September and November. These are with potential for international significance, because we've got Goal 16 in our city, which is the most important goal for the United Nations. And we've got COP26 in Glasgow in November. We should be doing something from a grassroots level to raise the profile, because our communities need to understand what it means about their own personal carbon footprint. One example that I tend to give, and I'm going to do very, very quickly, relating to South Indians. We ladies who pick okra, when they pick it up, do they realize that it is grown in another part of the world, and somebody in the heat has raised it, earning very little money? It's been flown over. There's carbon footprint related to that. There are people that are shopkeepers that are going at 4 o'clock in the morning to the warehouses to collect the as fresh produce as they can. And you come in first thing in the morning and you snap the end of the okra. And if it doesn't snap according to your preference, you break it and you put it back. And nobody else takes that. That is the kind of carbon footprint learning we should be raising our own consciousness about. And those are big issues that we need to change. And I would like for collaborators and sponsors, we need sponsors. We don't have any funding, but we are willing to do this on a voluntary basis. And people should be getting on board, personally, I think. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much. And I think that's a very good example. And, and with that analogy, it also kind of reminds me of something, which is, some of the YouTube videos that you can watch. So possibly, there are things around how you can use okra if you are diabetic. And there are YouTube videos like that where basically they are teaching how to break that point at the very top to kind of see whether it's a fresh one or not. So you see the contradiction and the kinds of information, and that's what we are saying, that it's a kind of information poverty that we are dealing with in a digital age as well. So there are lots of challenges, but possibly, as we put our heads together, we will find that solution. And, that brings up to towards the end. And I would like to bring in Anil, who has been talking about SDG 16 just now. And before we kind of come to an end, and we have got Professor Monica Rakanpal, who is going to talk about a little bit around the research and the recruitments that they are doing. So it will be wonderful if we as a community can support the initiatives, the research initiatives, and also we have got Pam Sidhu and Marsha Raju. So we'll play along that, and then we will end our stream at that point. So thank you very much to everyone who has joined us today, and hope we can all work together. Yes, Kamala, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just saying thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much again to everyone.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as well. Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Enam, and I'm going to be talking about SDG 16. The aim of this goal is to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. If we get down to statistics, every day 100 civilians are killed in armed conflict, despite protections under international law. 100 innocent people a day. That is such a scary thing to think about. Some targets of this goal of peace and security include significantly reducing all forms of violence and related death rates everywhere, ending abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and all forms of violence against and torture of children, promoting the rule of law at the national and international levels and ensure equal access to justice for all, substantially reducing corruption and bribery in all their forms, developing effective, accountable and transparent institutions at all levels. My mum is a peace ambassador with the Universal Peace Federation London, and she does so much locally and is very passionate about the SDGs, and she encourages me to feel the same passion towards making this world a better place for everyone. So I think that it all begins from home, the principles parents set for their children, as if anything will help us achieve the SDGs, it is the support and cooperation of the coming generations of youth, and that all starts at home. Thank you.
My name is Professor Monica Lackenpool at University College London. Together with my colleagues at De Montfort University, we will be carrying out the Champions Project. In this project, we'll be working with families of children under 5 years who've experienced homelessness or have been living in temporary accommodation for all of the COVID pandemic or even part of the COVID pandemic. In this project, we want to hear the voices of families, the problems they have gone through during the pandemic, and some of the ways they've found solutions to the problems that they've gone through. We want to share these experiences, share these stories with service providers and with policymakers in England. And through these experiences and stories, we hope to co-create solutions to give our children a better future. We need your help to do this. We're looking for families who will be happy to take part in an interview and or take part in a survey as well. And we know how precious family time is, and therefore we will provide a voucher to thank you all for the time you give to us. We also know that some of the information may be confidential, so before we use it, we'll ask all of you if we can share that information in a confidential way. And if within a month you feel that you want to delete any of your information, you don't want us to use it, please just contact us and we will do that for you. In the meantime, if you have any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to ask us at all, you can contact us by phone or through our website or through our email, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But in the meantime, please think of taking part in this important project that will improve the lives of our children together with you for their future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marsha Amrip. I'm the Director of Inclusion at the Royal Institute of British Architects, and I am also a CQ, that's Cultural Intelligence facilitator and trainer. And I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just telling you about CQ and why it's important to you as well as to anybody else, because just because we come from a particular group doesn't mean that we're predisposed to be preferential to that group. That is to say, just because I'm brown doesn't mean that I can't have racist behaviours and actions. And I think that it's really important for all of us to recognise that when we're socialised into a particular environment, the likelihood is that we have bias. So growing up in the UK, I have been socialised and politicised, and my economic perspectives are all based around this society in which I've grown up in. And so all of those bits of information have fed into my very being and feed into my decision making in a way that I don't even realise. Our bias is rooted in the fact that we have 11 million bits of information going into our brain at any given moment, and the conscious capacity to process 40. So we have 10 million 999,960 bits of information that our brain is processing, and we are completely consciously unaware of it. And that is the root of bias. It's a human biological need to shortcut information. And all the sort of images and messages and lots of different things that have gone into us becoming who we are today is as a result of our environment. And so you should assume that you are a biased individual. Indeed, you are. And so what you need to do is to create processes and procedures that allow you to mitigate that bias. You cannot change it. You can only put in procedures at this time to help mitigate it. So what does that mitigation look like? And that is what cultural intelligence is. It's that mitigation piece. So cultural intelligence, CQ, Q stands for quotient because it's a measure as well as a skill. You can take an assessment and be measured on how high your CQ is. But CQ, cultural intelligence, is the capability to work and relate effectively with people who are different from you. That is, the difference between success and failure with people who are different from you is how high your cultural intelligence is. And cultural intelligence is broken down into 4 capabilities. The first is CQ drive. Do you want to? Are you motivated to work and relate effectively with those who are different from you? And if you're not, how do you motivate yourself? And do you have the confidence to go into interactions with those who are different from you? And when they go wrong, do you have the confidence to pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and give it another go? The second capability is CQ knowledge. So that's, what do you know? What are you thinking about? What are your own values? How do they compare to somebody else's? How do you bridge the gap when someone else's values seem so different to yours, so alien that you think they're wrong and you're right? But it isn't that you're wrong and they're right, or vice versa. It's just a different perspective. What's acceptable and familiar to me may not be acceptable and familiar to you. That doesn't mean that either of you are necessarily right or wrong. It can just be a different perspective. The third, and that's the reason why CQ knowledge piece is so huge, because you can never know everything about everyone, and so that's why it's so important to surround yourself with a diversity of lived experience, as much other input into your own life as possible. The third piece of the puzzle is CQ strategy, and this is thinking about what you're thinking about. It's a unique human ability to do that metacognition piece. So if you're motivated and you have some knowledge and you go straight into action without CQ strategy, you're likely to act in a stereotypical and tokenistic way. So you need CQ strategy, which is about planning, which is about being hugely self-aware, which is about checking your assumptions. Because if you go straight into it, like I say, without doing that piece of work, what I consider one of the most important pieces of work, you're likely to be stereotypical. And then finally, the fourth piece, the fourth capability, CQ action. Ultimately, people judge us on our behaviours, and those who are high in CQ action have a broad repertoire of behaviours on which to call upon to adapt in an authentic way in order to be effective at working and relating with those who are different from you. Now, these 4 capabilities, it's an ongoing journey to improve oneself and ask the question, what is it about me? Which means that I find it difficult to work with you. So it doesn't matter whether we're looking at race, age, sexuality, gender, disability, whatever the situation is. You then have a framework of behaviours in which to build upon and mitigate your bias by listening, learning, reflecting and acting in a way that means you'll be more effective at working and relating with those who are different from you. And that is cultural intelligence.
Hi, I'm Pam Sidhu, delighted to be asked to make this video to share my journey with you today. So I have been really interested in the mind and how the mind works and how we can take charge of our thoughts, because we can't control what's happening out there, but we can control what's happening in there. So I've been on numerous different courses over the years. I now, I teach NLP, I teach mindfulness, I help people relax, because especially through the pandemic, no matter what has been going on, it's still happening. Whatever's happening is happening, it's going to happen, but we can choose how we react through that. So if we stay relaxed, it just makes it that little bit easier. As they say, there's a very famous mindfulness saying, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. So when we stay relaxed, we can just learn how to surf that little bit easier when those big waves come, such as what's been happening in the last year with the pandemic. And it's really good for, relaxing the body, helping the body heal as well, and moving forward as well, out of trauma. So for those of us who have suffered loss, whether it's finance, whether it's a family member or a friend, it's a really good way of just helping ourselves through that. So as I said, I'm fascinated on the mind. I'm fascinated on bringing happiness to people, bringing peace to people, through all these different things. And it's like I've got a little toolbox, so it's like, okay, what tool can I pull out now? And so another tool that I have is I'm also a radio presenter. I do the Drive Time show on Subbritish Radio. I've been doing radio now for about 4 years. I've always had the gift of the gab, always been told I talk too much. Now I've been let loose on the airwaves, so I actually get to do it on air and play some great music. And again, it's all about, I think to myself, if I can make one person smile, then a job done. That's a good thing that I'm doing there, in terms of just, playing some happy music, having some happy talk, regardless of what might be happening in our lives personally or societally, globally. So you can catch me on Drive Time 3 till 6, Monday to Friday on Subbritish Radio. You don't need to be local. You can listen online and, catch those musical waves, catch those good waves, those positive waves. Also, I've been involved with COS. I love the work that they're doing. It's all about promoting peace, and that's what it's all about, especially in today's times. So big up to COS. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on social media. I'm there under Pam Sidhu, and I'd love to hear from you. But keep on influencing, keep on making that positive difference, just one step at a time. As I said, even if we can influence one person and help one person smile, then surely we're making that difference. Take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.